Absolute bedlam. Absolute bedlam. Absolute bedlam. Talking about topics and stuff. Absolute bedlam. Absolute bedlam. Absolute bedlam podcast. Who? What? Where? Why?
Nestled deep within the heart of Yorkshire lies a rum so smooth that once it passes your lips, you'll never look back again. Combining the smooth tones of sweet fresh ginger, rich treacle and a lick of Yorkshire honey, Absolute Bedlam are proud to be partnered with the true Angel of the North. Two Lasses Spirits. Use code BedlamUK at checkout.
Absolute Bedlam podcast. We've got Matt from Nevermind Polly finally on the podcast.
Hello.
It's been about, I reckon, about 12 or 13 months in the making.
It's been a hot minute, to say the least.
Yeah, man. But yeah, we're busy. We're both podcasters. We know the life.
Absolutely.
We know the sacrifice.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah, man. So yeah, you've obviously been smashing it your side. I've been trying to hold the fort down my side. So yeah, what have you been up to in the last couple of episodes?
The last couple of episodes. So it's weird because I was quite busy over before Christmas. So the Guilt Trip episode, the Polar episode, and aiming for Enrique episode, which comes out this Friday, whenever this comes out. So the next one was all recorded before December, literally before the 24th December, 25th. So I actually recorded the Beyond the Black one, which came out last week in 2023. That's the first one I've actually recorded in 2023. So yeah, not a lot, but sending a lot of emails and a lot of admin stuff behind the scenes, which is always fun.
Well, I messaged you at the weekend because I saw Beyond the Black in HMV. I was like, fucking hell. Everything's starting to sort of close in. And
absolutely.
We're seeing guests everywhere now. And it's really cool. It's really good.
It is good. How's things with you? You all right?
Yeah, man. Who have I got next? I'm all right. In real world, I'm all right. I'm fine. Yeah, I might as well drop this now. I've got Sean Smith on next month.
Have you? Oh, that's amazing.
I messaged him as well saying, don't forget that I interviewed Dave McPherson first. I'm sure he'll appreciate that. He seems like he's up for a laugh.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great get. Love that.
I've also got Harbinger, who are a sort of death metal band from Brighton on the 13th February.
Nice.
And I've got the bassist of Preston Echo, Jake Crawford, I think his name is.
Nice.
Him and Luke, the singer of Preston Echo, are about to start their own project.
Oh, amazing stuff.
So yeah, man, life is good. Life's quite musical at the moment.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Got a couple of things on the go with some wrestlers and some comedians as well. So
lovely stuff. And that's one thing I massively envy about your podcast is the fact, and we've said this both public and privately, you can kind of have everybody because you're such a wide open scope where you say, I'll have a wrestler this month, I'll have a comedian, I'll have a musician, whereas I've kind of honed specifically in on music, which is good for one thing, but also I'll see some of the guests you get on, I'm like, that would have been a great conversation, but then I'm like, it completely sticks out like a sore thumb, if I have a wrestler on during the week.
Well, that kind of ties nicely into how I kind of bumped into you virtually, which is you interviewed Robbie Knox.
Absolutely, yeah.
I've got a little bit of a joke here as well, because I have a habit of saying things as a joke and not realising I'm using the wrong tone of voice. Because I've only got one tone of voice, so take it or leave it, you motherfuckers. I wanted to get Polar on, I wanted to get Stephen Battelle from Lost Alone on, and I got Robbie Knox on. So we're operating within similar circumstances sometimes. So yeah, that's all good. That's written down. So, first question I've got for you, because this is kind of a conversation, kind of an interview. I've just got a couple of questions written down. As podcasting is becoming a bit more serious for yourself, Would you ever consider getting your own studio, or are you quite happy with your current arrangement on Zoom?
So this is something I've thought about and something I've spoken to Rebecca about, because Rebecca is like my silent co-host in this game, because she just like the go-to for everything, artwork, whatever.
Yeah, man.
I'm looking to invest, and it's about 500 quid's worth of equipment in getting the Zoom Procaster desk thing. And basically means that I can like fade in and out and put little sound bites and weird things on, which is all very good, very snazzy. But like to kind of go out and do podcasting out in the quote unquote real world is so much more nerve wracking than it is on Zoom.
Okay.
Because on Zoom, I can kind of, and I never have, to be perfectly fair, but if I wanted to, I could turn my camera off and be like, oh no, my webcam's broken today.
Yeah.
And it's just like having a phone call with someone. Whereas if I'm sat opposite someone, they can literally see every emotion, every facial kind of whatever. And if you're having a good interview, that's fantastic. If you're having a less good interview and they're being a bit awkward or a bit like they're not really getting the vibe, it's going to be difficult, you know? And that's my job and our job, I guess, to try and turn it around, I guess, is probably the best word.
One of the issues I've had, I'm very, very good at getting people feeling comfortable. I've always been very good at bringing people, matching their energy as well, because if they're like the fucking guy that you had from Anvil, fuck knows how you managed that, mate, but there was a hell of an interview. I loved it. He just wouldn't stop. And that's the issue that I sometimes have, is I start rolling.
Yeah.
And I end up realising that this is basically just a 40-minute monologue. And you need to let the guest breathe. You need to let the host breathe. You need to have a bit of a back and forth. And sometimes it feels like... I've had a few people on recently from like political world, and they have literally just taken the entire show. And I'm just like nodding, like, yeah, this ain't gonna, like, I got all these questions written down on this phone, and I'm not getting any of these written down. So yeah, it's a difficult thing to do. I think it's quite underappreciated.
That's the thing as well. It depends what you want out of the podcast. So from my personal opinion, from what I get out of what I do on here, is I try and relax a guest. I always say this, and I feel like I'm breaking the fourth wall, but at the same time, I said this on another podcast, I don't care. If someone says to me, you can't do this anymore, I'll go and do something else that's creative.
Yeah.
I'll still continue to have these conversations, whether they're with musicians or whether with people like yourself and friends and whatever else. I'll still continue to do it. So when I get on the Zoom call, I always say, I am not a journalist.
Yeah.
I'm a music fan. And it kind of either brings them down to my level and they're like, oh, cool. All right. Amazing. And especially if it's a band like I know a lot about. So Liam from Cancerbats springs to mind, because I know you had Scott from Cancerbats on. And I just said to him, I was like, can you remember like the tour you did in like 2008? And he's like, I've not thought about that tour since 2008. Yeah. And I'm like, I have, you know, and it's like, because I'm a fan of that band, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes it's kind of like, I'll get sent a band to come on, and it's like they're releasing an album at this time. These are like sort of a set framework, if you like, of questions that we want to talk about and go for it. But 9 times out of 10, the guests are pretty good. It's more other people around the guest who can be a little bit like, don't ask this, do ask that. I mean, the Witch Fever episode is a classic example of that, of saying what I can and can't say. But, you know, it's all good.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that one. I'm glad that you mentioned it, because otherwise I feel when people say, oh, I'm going to tell you a story, but I'm not going to tell you the name of the person, quite a lot of people are like, I'm going to go on a bit of a Scooby-Doo mystery with this. Yeah. So, yeah.
And that's the thing. I'm not like going to call anybody out, because it was no one's fault. But so the PR people were lovely. They were really, really good to deal with. But they just didn't tell me the one key piece of information that some of Witch Fever want to be referred to as they, them, as opposed to she, he, whatever, you know, the generic sort of genders.
Yeah.
And that's quite a key piece of information, because you say things like, so I say, you guys quite a lot.
Yeah.
I don't mean gender specific in terms of male, female. I just talk as a generalization of guys. But again, that was taken as, oh, we're actually non-binary, whatever, we're gender, whatever. And it's kind of like, okay, well, that's a really key piece of information I probably could have known before, whereas I wasn't, it said, oh, you're not allowed to talk about X like song on the album because it's about, their religious upbringing. And I was like, I wasn't going to go there because I knew that. But, knowing they were preferred to be referred to as they, them, is probably a key point I probably should have been told about. You know what I mean?
That's interesting because I find when artists record an album or an EP that they're really proud of, they put their heart and soul into it. And, people write lyrics about being bankrupt, being depressed, being suicidal. So it's interesting that they don't want to talk about that song when it's obviously going to get brought up at some point because they're about to tour that album with that song on.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I think the thing was, I think their PR people were just trying to cover every base in the sense of, this is clearly like a sensitive topic. Journalists as a whole try and look for a story or an angle. And if they're going in hard about that one thing, then it can be potentially off-putting. It's a conversation that a lot of females have in the rock and metal world of saying, what's it like being a woman in rock?
Yeah.
And it's the most dumb question because it shouldn't fucking matter what gender you are. But some people try and go down that road, and it's just, it's like it's a non-conversation, really and truly,
Yeah, there's a comedian that me and my girlfriend watch a lot at the moment called Eliza Schertzinger. And she's constantly being interviewed and asked about what's it like being a woman in comedy.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck off.
I'm
a comedian.
It's like saying to us, what's it like being a man in Asda? Do you know what I mean? Like, it holds no relevance what gender you are in that scenario. It's just you're doing a job or doing a thing.
Completely, yeah. So, would you ever consider doing a Nevermind Poly podcast meetup or anything similar?
I mean, if people wanted to, then to be honest, it's one of those things where you see the numbers on the podcast and, so with anything creative, with this podcast, I try to take inspiration from other podcasts I listen to because I'm a massive podcast enthusiast, basically, whether it's Jack Mate's Happy Hour, whether it's Diary of a CEO, Absolute Bedlam, whatever podcast I'm listening to, I will steal little bits from those podcasts and try and build it into my own to make your own thing. So, one day I would love to be the size of Jack Mate's Happy Hour, for example, and do a UK tour or whatever else. But at the same time, that would terrify me. So I guess I see the numbers, but the numbers are only numbers until you meet someone and go, I listen to your podcast. And then suddenly it's like, oh, I can put a face to the number, or I can put a face to the name on the internet who says on Instagram, oh, great podcast. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's nice when you get that as well. I get a few DMs now and then saying, I really liked your episode with blah, blah, blah. I think I listen to Joe Rogan a lot, right? And I feel that there's an immense amount of pressure on him. I listened to one earlier. He's talking about a food review YouTube channel. I think it's a guy called Sunny, and he does Best Food Ever Review. I think that's the name of his YouTube channel. And I felt the nerves from Sunny that anything that Joe says or anything Sunny says could be taken as gospel.
For sure.
I think that's quite a lot of weight. There's a good example as well. He recently interviewed Dave Portnoy, who owns Barstool Sports, who's a massive, successful businessman. And they were talking about charity in the podcast with Joe Rogan, and they were talking about if I donate $1 to Make-A-Wish or Red Cross, how much money does the charity actually see? And Joe got his facts wrong and said that Make-A-Wish were one of the worst charities in the world. And Dave Portnoy was like, fuck, did we just bury Make-A-Wish? Live on the podcast? And I just think, I don't want to have to say something and then immediately fact check myself. I'd rather just I'd rather be who I am and say what I honestly think, or I would just not, because I don't know that what I'm saying is actually accurate. But it's a dangerous game sometimes if so it's completely unedited, it's completely unfiltered. I can say
absolutely, and that's the thing as well. So whenever I'm doing a band interview, and I'm sure you're the same, I always make a point of, if I know something to be fact, I will take it as fact because I know it's fact.
Yeah.
Where something's a bit wishy-washy, I'll just say to them, like, this is what I've found on the internet. If any of it's incorrect, please correct me. And and that's, that just covers your own ass then. I think I'm more worried about being cancelled, but, that I suppose you have to have a following of some description at that point to be cancelled, but fuck it, do you know what I mean?
I do, yeah. But people like Jeffree Star and Andrew Schultz seems to be quite controversial. And what's his name? Why do I not remember this? Theo Von.
Right, okay, yeah.
Each says all sorts of crazy shit, and no one ever seems to come for him. So yeah, I don't know. It might be because they play the comedian card.
Yeah, of course. And I think if you say something so Frankie Boyle, for example, right, is pretty much like the OG like UK based version of saying something outrageous.
Yeah.
And then, but the difference between Frankie Boyle and every man on the street is Frankie Boyle has got the intelligence to back up what he said. And make you see sense. He'll say something completely outrageous and then go, well, actually, here's a list of reasons why what I said is factually correct and also da-da-da-da. And it's like, you may not agree with him, but at least he's got the receipts, so to speak, if you know what I mean.
I do, yeah. So, if you had an option of 3 guests to get back on this year for a catch-up episode, and I know 3 isn't a lot considering you pump out content every week, who would immediately spring to your mind that you would get back on from a previous episode?
Okay, so my first one, I'm just going to quickly go on my phone and try and find my episodes. My first one would be Serena from Svalbard, purely because she is such an interesting character as a musician. She's also a massive theme park enthusiast, which is wicked.
Yeah.
And just really, really like a genuinely nice human being. So not that most of them aren't nice anyway, but you know what I mean. But in terms of people, you've really put me on the spot here. Hang on a second. I think it'd be someone who from like I'm just scrolling back to see who was like really early. He was a really early podcast we had. I mean, Robbie Knox is obviously the obvious answer here because, that fucking podcast is blowing up and has been for ages. And you know what I'm going to say as well? I'm going to say I'd love to have Reese or Andy, my 2 previous co-hosts on the show.
Yeah.
That would be really cool. Just to sit down and be like, what's been happening? And have a proper little, whether they will or not, I don't know. But I'm putting it out there into the universe, as they say.
There we go.
But that would be my 3.
Fair enough.
I'm technically 4, but...
I think one of the people that we spoke about when you recorded with them, was it Ash from Venom Prison?
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a really nice guy.
Super lovely guy, And also, David from Employed to Serve was a really nice guy. And Sammy was a really nice guy from Employed to Serve as well.
Yeah.
Both of those guys are really cool.
Yeah. I think one of your episodes that made me think, holy shit, was... I'm just having a look quickly, because you've done a lot of stuff, Matt. And
I do try.
It's nice to speak to you, finally, on...
yeah, absolutely.
Nevermind, Polly. 2 seconds. Let's have a look. I want to get this right. I really enjoyed your episode with Chronicles of podcast as well.
You know what? That was the most. I'm sure. I actually haven't listened back to it because, generally speaking, I don't listen back to my own episodes, let alone an episode I guested on, because I hate the sound of my own voice, which is generally why I don't do much editing. But also, that podcast started out with such high energy. Like, we just started the Zoom call and immediately they were making dick jokes. Yeah. And I was like, what have I just... like when you walk into a room and like there's like, I don't know, like a toddler that's done something naughty and you're like, what the fuck have you done? Like, and the toddler just looks at you like, nothing. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to say that kind of reminds me of what my nephew does at the minute. He's like 2 and he's like, what have you done, Tommy? What have you done? And he's like, nothing. Like... Nothing. So, but yeah, it's really, really cool. They're really, really cool guys.
Is it Brant Bjork?
Brant Bjork, yeah. From Caius and Stoner and various other projects. Yeah, really, really nice guy.
And singer of Funeral for a Friend?
It was a guitarist, Darren from Funeral Friend.
Jolly Roger. I was meant to speak to them, but I had to cancel, unfortunately. And they just came off a European tour, so that's one of my big regrets.
Yeah, they're really nice people. Really like them people. They're really cool.
Is it the bassist of Evil?
Yeah, Joel. That's actually one of the episodes I have done in person. And I actually went to the Eval show when they last played London. He was a really nice guy, actually. Really, really cool.
Nice. I'm still trying to find this fucking one episode that I was like, holy shit, I need to pay attention to this. I'll have a look whilst I'm scrolling. We've got King Blues.
Yeah, that was mad. That was a mad get. And you know what the thing was? I think the single biggest thing that was great about getting these guests was lockdown. Because everybody was on Zoom. Everybody had loads of fucking free time. Loads of people just were starved of basic human connection.
Yeah, completely.
Even if it's just through a computer. So it was just a case of like, hey, do you fancy coming on for a half hour to an hour chat? And they're like, yeah, sure. And it was literally as simple as that. Like, I don't want to say they were the easy days, but they were the days that were definitely easier.
I'm thinking of Lie Art is Murder, CJ McMahon.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that was a get just through, he was playing Twitch.
Yeah.
And he had like 15 people watching, and I was like, do you want to come on my podcast? He's like, when? I was like, tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, cool, sorted. Like...
So, a peek behind the curtain, and do correct me if I'm wrong. You messaged me about that, saying I've got to wake up at 12 a.m.
Yeah, because he's in Australia. I'm pretty sure it was 12 a.m. It was either 6 a.m. or 12 a.m. I can't remember which way around it was, but yeah, it was an early start.
So
for sure.
If you're not fucking subscribed to Matt, people, he's willing to wake up in the middle of the night. Are you fucking mental? So yeah, shout out. I haven't done an Australian podcast yet. I've done plenty of US ones, but that shows how much of a fire is in your belly, you know?
You know what? And I'm hoping this goes back to a previous question about a band I'd like to have back on. I'd love to have on the Betty Rays again, which are an Australian punk band, because me and Rebecca and my friend Rebecca as well were meant to be going to Bloodstock the next day. I was on Zoom at like 20 to 12 on a Zoom call doing a podcast, and I was so fucking tired. And I'd done them so dirty on that podcast because I was just so like dead behind the eyes. But that being said, they're coming to Norwich. We're supporting another band, so I'm hopefully going to get them and be like, yo, let's sit down, let's do it properly, let's have a beer, let's do it properly.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, man. That's awesome. It's really cool when you build up a rapport. I'll get into this now, because I've got MC Lars on DMs on Twitter. I've got Brendan from Wheatus. It's just so fucking cool. It's such a direct route to them, rather than having to go through a PR company. Like, sometimes I have a bit of an email thing where I kind of lay things down to a point that they're so easy that an idiot could pick up the email, and I'm like, I really want to interview you about your album and how albumy it is. It's just like, absolutely. I need to get a template, really. But yeah.
You know what? I'll just quickly show this now, because again, this goes on record saying what you said about Rebecca's just decided to join the podcast. You're right. She's but yeah. So I know the guy. I say quote unquote know the guys, but the guys in Harriet.
Yeah.
So.
Hell yeah, man.
They sent me some free shit, and there's all signed and stuff, so it's going to go up in the flat. But again, that was a case of just like, they came on the first time as guests through a PR, and then we went to Art Tangent, and we just hang out. It was really nice, you know? Yeah. But it's nice when bands are just cool, you know?
Completely, yeah. Yeah, it's nice to just see them from a sort of friend, sort of acquaintance perspective, rather than you're on the stage, I'm here, I might occasionally get a bit of eye contact. It's nice when people give you like set lists and they send you something, and I'm all up for free shit. Send me all the free shit. I'll sponsor anything, as you probably know. Anyway, so biggest fuck up that you've experienced whilst podcasting. I think you might have asked me this in the episode that we did together on your platform.
Yeah, so the biggest fuck up. So there's been a couple of technical fuck ups where I've gone to record an episode and I've not turned my mic up so they can hear me, but it's not recording, or they've like done the same or whatever. In fact, there's one actually that we're going to re-record it tomorrow. and basically the internet was really glitchy. Like, it was just one of those things. It was a really good conversation, but it was just like, fuck, this is just shit, you know. And I listened back to it, and for some reason I turned my microphone gain so high that it just sounded like I was inhaling the microphone, which is just never good. And I tried everything to try and edit it and sort it, and I was like, and I just, luckily, the guys who I was chatting to were a band called Beyond Extinction, who I'm really good friends with anyway, and they go for a PR company, and I just sent them all an email and was like, I'm so sorry, technical fuck-ups. Which happens. That's the downside of doing things on Zoom. But in terms of like massive fuck-ups, was I sat down with the front man of the band Violence, Sean, and it was during COVID time, and he was basically massively anti-vax, and it was fine. People can have their own personal opinion, personal beliefs. I've not got a problem with any of that. But like, the whole point of the interview was to talk about the album, and he just went on this rhetoric about how COVID isn't real, and like, you know, it's like, fine, if you believe that, that's your opinion to believe that, but that's not what I'm having a conversation with you about. And we tried to like skirt it, and it was fine. Like, we got something out of it, but the blessing was kind of in the fact that it never went out, because again, technical fuck up. It was actually the microphone I'm using now. I was very new to it, hadn't set it up properly, and it recorded none of his audio at all. It was just me just talking to myself for like 45 minutes, which I take personally as maybe a blessing, maybe a curse, but at the same time, I tried not to put too much pressure on myself, because I'm like, if the guest wants to go on a rhetoric about whatever, that's on them, not on me. That's not reflect. If someone came on here and was like, oh, by the way, if they'd done a Kanye West and was like, Hitler wasn't such a bad guy, then fuck that guy. I'm not putting that out, you know. But for the most part, it's like, you know, fine. If you want to say that shit, then go ahead. But that's not what I'm here to talk about, you know.
On behalf of everyone at Absolute Bedlam, please don't clip that, guys.
Don't absolutely. Just that'll be the next headline. Matt from Nevermind Poly Podcast says Hitler wasn't such a bad guy after all,
and that he can't be cancelled.
He can't be cancelled. There we go.
The two bits together. Fucking awesome.
Absolutely.
I would personally watch the episode interview where you are just basically talking to yourself for 40 minutes. I think that would be fucking hilarious. You could do like an outtakes, end of year bloopers or something like that.
You know what the hardest bit about that was, right? Because that episode was fucking mentally draining. Like, I don't get like any kind of cash for this or any kind of I don't do it for any kind of clout. I do it because I love it. You know, the festival tickets are always fun. Press tickets for shows are always great. Meeting people, that kind of, it's all fun. But like, the bottom line is, I do it because I want to do it. You know, like I said, if someone said you can't chat to any more bands, you have to just chat to your friends, I'll just carry on doing that then. And I always make a point of saying, as long as there's somebody, I don't care if it's one or two people listening, I'll continue to do it, you know. And we're far from that, which is always nice. But it's mad.
Awesome. So another question I've got is kind of a serious one, and then I've got a silly one after.
Go on.
Would you ever consider staging and performing your podcast on Twitch rather than pre-recorded? Would you be willing to do it live?
I mean, I've got no issue with doing it on Twitch. There's two points to that is good. So firstly is viewer engagement. If people want to watch it and ask questions in the chat, that's fucking awesome. But secondly, I don't think I have a following at all of any significance to make that happen. And like, the second point of that is, I don't really want to give Twitch anything, because Twitch are a little bit shady, to be honest. You know, because the way, and I'm not throwing any shade on streamers, because my brother streams and you've had a lot of streams on the podcast. I've got an immense amount of respect for people who do Twitch. But once you're quote unquote offline on Twitch, your whole channel doesn't exist. Like, if you're a YouTuber, like, at least your content can still be viewed, it can still be watched. But I don't know many people who will go back and look at like past videos and watch Twitch like they would on YouTube. I may be completely wrong, but you know, I just think that it's a really hard thing to do. And I find it hard enough doing one podcast a week, which sounds really easy, but it's all the admin stuff, as you well know.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is not. It's not easy.
Yeah, if it was easy, everyone would do it. And there's no barrier of entry for podcasting. But for me and you, like, we've been doing this. Like, I think you've been doing it in several incarnations for a long period of time. I've been doing it for nearly 2.5 years, and it's like sometimes I go to work for a rest.
Yeah, no, absolutely,
and
that's the thing.
So much now.
That's the thing. So, as you obviously you well know, and listeners may not. So, my other half, Rebecca, has literally moved in like this week, and for the last 10 months or so, we've been going backwards and forwards. So, our time together has been very limited. And she used to get, and probably still does get, really annoyed at me when my phone pings and it's an email about a podcast, and I'm like, I know that we're sat in this restaurant, but I just need to answer this. And she's like, for fuck's sake. And I totally get it. Like, so now I try and make sure that I have time where I'm not doing that, and my phone is allowed to be off when it comes to podcasting stuff. And I'm like, no, it's fine, And half of that problem is me not planning ahead. Yeah. Hence why with Christmas, I done 3 episodes that I knew would go out the 1st of January, the 8th of January, and the 15th of January. So then if I needed to, I could take half of January off and be like, don't worry about it. Because basically, no one does anything in January. January kind of drags to a halt because Christmas happens, and then everything just sort of stops. Yeah. Even like I had to go get my car serviced, and that took about fucking 3 weeks to do because everything just stops when it hits January. It's like, oh no, we're still in Christmas mode, So
one thing I have learned from the other side of that is I do plan ahead, as you are fully aware.
Yeah,
to the point where, like, I've got everything booked up until June this year, which I fucking said to myself I wouldn't do. But I still feel that need to reply to emails as soon as I get them, and I'm stopping that this year. I'm letting the emails breathe because some people don't get back to me in 3 or 4 days. So if anyone ever says to me, you took 3 days to reply to my email, I would consider that as business as usual.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
SLA sort of response time. Because sometimes when you email people back instantly, it kind of comes off like you don't really have anything going on.
But also, that's the other thing, like, I don't want to go into like the financial side of it, but if this is like your part-time, full-time job, then fair enough. Like, you reply to every email you get. Yeah. But if it's just like a side hustle or a bit of fun on the side or whatever, it's like, okay, well then my free time is the most precious thing we have. Yeah. Like, money, relationships, whatever, is nothing in comparison to time because time is so small, and we don't know how much we have, not to go too deep in it. No, but, true. So when I always make a point of saying to people when they come on and be like, thanks. Not because you're a musician, not because I'm a quote unquote journalist, but cheers for giving me half an hour of your time. Yeah. Just to have a chat, because that's why we do it, essentially.
Yeah. When you have people like I had Ashens on quite early. He's one of the first YouTube videos that I recorded. If you want to check that out, it's on my YouTube channel. And I said to him, on recording, off recording, thank you so much because you don't owe me shit.
No, absolutely, yeah.
I've got nearly 150 subscribers. He's got nearly 2 million.
Yeah.
And I've been back and forth with him since. Quite sporadic. I don't like to sort of leech off people. I feel that sometimes gets a bit without me or nothing, that sort of thing. But yeah, I just appreciate everyone's time, and I do try my best to say thank you so much. And I try to follow it up as well with an email saying, can you please send me some promotional stuff? Thank you so much for your time. I really do genuinely appreciate it. And if you look back at the episodes, you'll find that, like, towards the last 5 minutes of each episode, I will pretty much say that on loop, to the point that it's a pre-recorded bit, and I've actually been lying the entire time. But not really. Right, silly question.
Go
on. Would you consider starting a hydration drink company with me? We can call it Mime. And I've got the first flavour under wraps, which is the Matt Bacon flavour drink.
You know what, right? I have tried so hard not to get sucked into this Prime bullshit. And I say Prime bullshit because I love YouTube as much as I love podcasting. I think the whole world is both brilliant and hilarious. Yeah. So, but the whole thing is just beyond, like, mental. You know, the fact that it's got like a secondary black market, that people are selling like, you know, 20, 30, 40, up to £100 for a bottle of basically Lucozade, but without extra sugar. And I mean, I've not even tried it, but to the point where, so I've got a local spa in my tiny little village where I live, and it was announced that they were getting it in Spa. So I got in my car and I drove down to the shop in an attempt to just, because I wanted to try, you know, I wanted to try it. But and that's when I realised that I've been sucked into this wormhole that is Prime.
So on Prime, me and my editor John, and me and my son in another video, we've reviewed it. We got Tropical Punch and Metamoon. That Prime hydration review that me and John did has been up for just about 3 days. It went up at 5 p.m. on Friday, and it's already 150 views.
Amazing.
So that's more views than I've got subscribers, so I know that it's going somewhere in the algorithm. But yeah, there's this massive demand for it at the moment, and it's a bit insane. I think it's similar to like loo rolls at COVID, where people just don't know what the fuck's going on, and there's this sort of mass hysteria of, I'm sure in a couple of months it will just be everywhere and there won't be a hype about it anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's the thing as well. Even going back like maybe 2 years, a year, 2 years ago, like PS5s were like gold dust. And I know that's a much more expensive product, but like even when I was in school, like you had like Pokemon cards. If you didn't have like the best Pokemon card, then like fuck, like you were a loser or whatever. So like if you're like 13 to 15 and impressionable, and you see the man with fucking 15 million subscribers, whatever KSI's got, you know, and Logan Paul together, promote this drink, and your friends got one, but you haven't. Like, I totally get it, but it's mad. It really is mad.
I've realised every time I go into Asda, I literally sound like a drug dealer. I'm like going up to customer service, like, have you got any Prime? You got any product? And I'm like, Ben, what's going on, mate? Like, you've had 6 bottles, you think you're the dog's bollocks. Just tone it down a bit. If it's on the shelf, buy it. But at the initial point at the start, you had to go to customer services to buy it, because it was just getting sucked off the shelves and sold to... That's what I thought your story was going to be about. The spas and the co-ops and the dodgy corner shops selling it for like £8 a bottle.
Yeah, it's mad. The whole I don't know if you're on TikTok, the whole Wakey Wines thing.
I did see that.
Just, it's like, and I fall into a TikTok wormhole, and I'm just told everything is like, Abdul, come closer, Abdul, fuck off, or whatever. Just like, I don't care. Like, but I find myself compelled to watch it. It's mental.
Have you ever made a podcast promise with someone? So what I mean by a podcast promise is you say something on a podcast, which is obviously recorded for the world to hear, and you then think, shit, I've said that on record, I need to do that.
Absolutely. Every single time I've said I will buy said person on podcast a beverage of their choice when I next see them, and that has caught up with me a couple of times. Probably the biggest one, notable one, was when I sort of walked past Josh, who plays guitar in Malevolence, and he's like, "Oh yeah, Matt, how you doing?" And I was like, "Yeah, right, mate." He went, "Hang on a minute, don't you owe me a beer?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, about that." And we were at a festival, and festival prices are fucking expensive. Absolutely. But I was like, "Oh yeah, about that, yeah," and I just carried on walking.
yeah, fantastic. Have you got any gigs planned this year, either as press or as a fan?
I do actually. So I'm not sure this is going to happen, the 29th of this month, there is a band called Party Cannon. They're about to go on a UK tour. They are slam metal. If you're into metal, you might understand what that means. Basically, it just sounds like terrible, like, you know when you've had like way too much to drink, and like you start being sick and you've got no more sick left and it's just regurgitated. That's what it sounds like, with the sound of a guitar being absolutely destroyed. It's the greatest thing.
I mean,
it's amazing.
You're not much of a salesperson.
Absolutely. The Party Cannon should get me on the payroll for sure. And they're supported by God Eater, who we've had on the podcast, are amazing. And my friend Kieran's band, Vast Slug, which is a great name for a band. So it should be a good night. So, and apart from that, nothing else as yet. I was meant to go to the Amity Affliction show in London, but I had to pick Rebecca up and various other things. So, unfortunately, it happened. But yeah,
I saw them support someone a few months, probably a couple of years ago now. I can't remember who it was. They were fucking awesome, Amity Affliction.
Yeah, that's it.
Great.
Just rub salt into that wound of mine. That's all right.
They were main support, so I assume you were going to see them headline.
Yeah, they were headlining, and I was going on the basis of speaking to a band called Gideon, who were the support act, and was potentially going to interview them and whatnot. But hey, these things happen; it will come back around again.
Yeah, I imagine seeing Amity Affliction at their own show would be quite cool. It would be probably quite a different experience to what I saw. I can't remember who that band was. Probably doesn't matter, to be honest. So I've got some quickfire questions. We've obviously spoken about who follows us. Is there anyone that's... Have you ever had a moment where someone's followed you back on Twitter or Instagram or something, and you've literally just had to put your phone down and go, I can't fucking do this reality thing anymore?
Okay, so I have one, but it wasn't... I wasn't like doing podcasting. I wasn't doing YouTube or anything like that at the time. It was about 5 years ago. Corey Taylor from Slipknot liked a tweet of mine.
Yeah.
And I don't have Twitter anymore. I famously, like I've said on record, that I fucking hate Twitter. It's a cesspit.
Yeah.
But when I had it and he liked my tweet, I was like, I'm done. If there's a man upstairs, end me. I am done. I don't want to do this anymore. That's it. It's game over. But like I don't really like... I'm not sure. Like, I don't really worry too much about the followers and things. I don't really see anyone who pops up, but yeah, that's probably the coolest one, I reckon.
Yeah. For me, it's like people on Twitter and Instagram. You can see publicly how many people they follow back, and for me to be invited into that exclusive club of like 64 people when they follow 42,000 people. It just makes me feel a bit like, I've, like I said earlier, I've got like instant access to it. And to me as well, it means that they're up for another episode.
Yeah,
Obviously,
absolutely.
It doesn't mean I'm going to recycle my entire guest list.
Yeah.
But it's just nice to be acknowledged, I suppose, sometimes. And when Wheatus followed me back, I had to really think about my life for a good 5 hours because they were one of my childhood sweetheart bands. And he's just such a nice guy, Brendan. He's just
absolutely, and that was like, so I've got a couple of episodes that stick out in my mind that I know that you've had on, and I was like, fuck yeah. So you've had basically one of my favourite bands on the podcast. You had Jake Fogarty before he was in Creeper, I do believe, but he's now in Creeper.
Yeah,
and I was like, mate, that is a fucking sick get, but The other one that again is Wheatus. Having Wheatus on the fucking podcast, it's like, because Wheatus, you know, like, not to throw shade at Wheatus, but they're a band who you don't really think about until you hear, you know, Teenage Dirtbag.
Completely.
But listening to him chat so passionately about basically his music and everything else, and it's like, well, of course this man is more than one song you heard when you were a teenager. Of course it is. You know, it's his whole life and career. You know, so that was really cool.
Yeah, and the fact that they did the Sainsbury's Christmas advert last year.
Yeah, amazing.
There's nothing they won't give a go. I love them. They've got a good work ethic behind them, and I'd love to speak to Brendan and Matt, their bassist, at some point soon. So we'll
Absolutely.
see. Quick fire questions. You probably know the questions off the top of your head by now.
Go on.
Let me just grab them 2 seconds. Where have I got them? 5 positives and 3 negatives. We're not doing negatives today, Ben. Right. So, Kinder Eggs.
Yep.
Are they a toy, or are they a deliciously chocolate treat with a toy in as a bonus?
I'm going to say they are the second one, but I kind of got some beef with Kinder Egg in the sense that the chocolate is not great, but the toys aren't great either. Like, now, hear me out with this. So, if you were a kid and went to McDonald's and got a Happy Meal, right? The meal is, like, nutritionally at least terrible for you, but at least you got a sick toy out of it.
Yeah.
You know? Like, Kinder Eggs are just like shit chocolate, shit toy, and it's just cost you like £2 something or whatever. How much Kinder Eggs are now? Inflation, and it's like, what the fuck? Like the best thing with those was having like the little I don't know what they call them, like the cube thing they have the toy comes in. Because I used to just pick that and lob it at my sister because I'm a big bully brother. Like,
nice.
But yeah,
investment. I've got a bit of a rant about Happy Meals, so
we'll
do the rant and then we'll get back to the quickfire questions. Sometimes me and my son go to McDonald's because I pick him up on Friday evenings, and sometimes I just can't be fucked to cook. And I'm fully aware that he might listen back to this in like 18 years. So hi Casper, I hope you're employed and you're doing well and all that shit. So sometimes Casper gets quite obsessed with things. He's currently obsessed with chess. He can't fucking stop playing chess. And I'm not good at chess, Matt, so I'm just getting my ass kicked by a 9-year-old all the fucking time. And it's a right laugh. So the Happy Meal, he quite likes reading. So I say to him when we get the Happy Meal, because you've got these kiosks now, we don't talk to people anymore. We just press screens. Life's a touch screen. I say to him, you want your burger, you want your fries. Do you want a toy or do you want a book? Because you quite like your books. And he looks at me like, I want a toy, mate. Yeah. And it's quite funny because he's a character, that little kid. And
well, I didn't even realise they'd done books anymore. Like that is so much like that's a really good thing. They do books, like genuinely, because like I didn't get into like reading until like an adult. Like I obviously can't read, but like reading books. And my brother and sister massively into like books. They read all the Harry Potter books when they were younger. I didn't read the Harry Potter books, for example, until I was like 25.
Yeah.
Because I was like, what the fuck would I want to read? I've got a TV, I can watch it on telly. Turns out they missed out a load of stuff, and it's actually a lot better. So getting like young kids to read is like, that's fucking sick.
Speaking of reading, we will get back to this. I'm sorry, I've never done this before.
It's all right.
If you want to see someone spend their entire month's wages in fucking Waterstones, my girlfriend Alex, holy shit, Matt, I've got to send you some pictures, mate. She was in Waterstones. This is like how most women, this is me stereotyping massively, act in like clothes shops. I just want to get on that fucking seat and just watch the world go by. And Alex is like coming at me with this fucking... And she can't even see. I'm like, do you want me to carry some books for you, Alex? But yeah, it's all fun and games. But yeah, I've never seen someone drop so much money on books.
I'm exactly the same. I walk into HMV and I go straight to the vinyl section.
Yeah.
And I come out with about like... I have in my hand about 6 like vinyls in my hand. And by the time I get to the till, I've whittled it down to the 2 that A, I can afford, and B, the ones I really, really want that month. So I totally get it. I'm totally with you on that.
So bands, when you record with Matt, my main man Matt, send him a vinyl. It's the least you
Absolutely.
can do. Don't send him posters. Don't send him CDs. Send him a phone with Spotify Premium. No, not really.
Absolute bedlam.
Shanty Spirit, based in Bournemouth, UK. Dorset Botanical Seaweed Vodka. So I met these at Bournemouth Air Show 2 years ago, and I wanted to get them on the podcast, which I've done in the previous episode, and I wanted to speak to them and promote their products because I think they're onto a winner. So this is vacuum distilled for fresher flavours. Lots and lots of different seaweeds go into this amazing vodka. Doesn't taste like the usual stuff that you get from the supermarkets. It's got a bit of a sort of story to it and a bit more of a twist. It's had some awards, and I'm hooking you guys up. If you go to www.shantyspirit.com and you type in the code Bedlam discount for either 20cl or 70cl bottles, then you'll get 10% off your purchase. Shanty Spirit, drink to enjoy, drink responsibly.
Absolute bedlam.
Yeah, anyway, so quickfire questions. Holy shit. Baby belt or cheese string? What a segue. What a segue that was.
What a segue. Cheese string, because I was always told as a kid not to play with your food and pulling cheese. Yeah, cheese is fucking great. I could go on a whole podcast about talking about cheese, how much I love cheese, but yeah, that's a different story.
Okay. Camping in a tent or a static caravan for 1 week?
Static caravan because I fucking hate camping. I only camp at festivals because camping generally is for refugees. Sorry, don't cancel me. That was a joke. So don't come for me, internet.
If you wanna refugees, right? If you're listening to this, first of all, how? Second of all, please just put your tent back. Don't fucking Reading Festival it and leave it in a field for someone else to clean up.
But you know what the funny thing about Reading and Leeds now is the kids don't even take the tents; they just set fire to them. They don't want to leave that much of a problem. They just set fire to the fucking thing.
Everyone's doing it. The funniest thing I've only ever been to one festival properly. It was Download 2009, and
nice, great year.
The day that everything was like packing up on a Sunday, everyone turned into this dystopian Mad Max Thunderdome shit. I got back to my campsite. It wasn't a fucking campsite anymore. There were people spraying tomato sauce all over tents. There was someone who had a tin of beans and someone had a baseball bat and they were playing rounders. Yeah. I was like, what the fuck? This is what happens after 4 days of no rules.
Yeah.
It's completely descended into chaos.
So a friend of mine, shout out Rob, really, really nice guy, he made a point of saying that festivals are basically the only place where like you're on the brink of complete chaos, but there are very tiny little rules and like barriers you can't see. But they make you think it's like controlled anarchy.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah. That's it, yeah. Right, let's finish this up. Chocolate or sweets?
Chocolate, 100% every day.
Bath or shower?
Hygienic point of view, shower, but I do love a good bath.
Do you have access to a bath on the regular?
I do, and you know what? My shower pressure is fucking terrible, and it's lukewarm, and so definitely I always have a bath, especially when you're feeling crappy. Having a bath is lovely.
Well, Rebecca's gonna let you know about that, mate. So you need to sort that out.
I know.
Get off this Zoom call. Don't really. I need the views. Would you go to prison for £10,000 a day? If you are willing to go, how long for? I can't guarantee your safety. Anything can happen, but you can get out whenever you want.
So, I would go. But I would only go for a length of time that would not would see me through for a few months. So maybe I'd go in for like a week, because on the basis I like to think that I'm quite personable, so I feel like I could make some friends. I mean, I'm probably the one who's going to get sorted out in the shower, if you get my drift. But if I'm doing that, but I'm getting like 75 grand at the end of the week, then fair is fair. Do you know what I mean?
Nice.
I've just said that I'll be sexually assaulted for £75,000 in a prison.
Rebecca's still got her headphones on, right?
Yeah, she's deep in the iPad.
She won't listen to this. Let's be honest. For fuck's sake. We're 51 minutes in. No one's listening to this. I could say anything.
It's fine. The phone's still good. I was just saying that I would go to prison for 7 days to get £75,000, but I'd have to be sexually assaulted. Rebecca's just put her headphone back on, so it's all good. Just keeping her in the loop, it's all good.
Yeah, nice.
So it's all good. You go back to your TV, whatever you're watching.
She's not going to listen to this now. For fuck's sake, Matt. Right, minor inconveniences. I don't really have any this week, other than just the general cost of life. Do you have any minor inconveniences that you want to get off your chest?
I do, and this is so petty, but so basically, this was literally yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. So drove all the way up to Barnsley, where Rebecca used to live, about 4 hours for me driving. Anyway, drove back. We got within, I would call smelling distance of my house. We were about 15 miles from home, and we were like loving life. I was like, just want to get home now. I'm tired. It's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I just want to get home. Anyway. There was a guy driving a car. This was in a 50, I think it was, doing 25 miles an hour, right? And ordinarily, I'm quite placid when it comes to driving. I don't really get too pissed off or upset. But this guy, anyway, this fucking Mercedes, right? And he was in a C-class Mercedes, right? So he was quicker than I am in my little Polo, right? Decided to come flying up my ass, right? Bearing in mind, there's the slow car, 3 cars in front, single lane traffic. And this guy decides to try and, like, he's right up my ass. He's about 2 inches from my ass, right? And then I'm like, go on in, big man. If you're going to pull out, go on, go on, go on. And then he tries to pull out, right? And there's a truck coming the other way. And do you know when you just get these moments if you're like, fuck it, we're all going to die now. This is it. Like, this is how I'm going to go out. I decided, because I was already doing, I would say, about 55. I decided to just accelerate really fucking hard. And at one point, we were just like mirror to mirror at each other. And it was basically a game of chicken. And who's going to back off? And I was like, no, dickhead, you've chosen your fate. Now seal it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And Rebecca's gone, Matt, please stop. And I'm like, no, this dickhead wants to be... The thing that I find annoying is he's in a car that is so much quicker than mine. He could have easily got past me, but yet he just chose to be a dickhead. Anyway, he tailed off and then managed to get in front of me, brake checked me 2 or 3 times, and then done it to a few other cars up the road. Basically, what I'm trying to say is slow drivers can get in the fucking bin. Just keep to the speed limit. I'm asking you to speed. Just keep to the speed limit. It's not difficult.
So from my perspective on that, as someone that does a lot of driving, I am very reliable in life, I find. I will get to a place 5 minutes early. I'd rather be 5 minutes early than 2 hours late. I cannot fucking stand people that are 5 minutes late to everything. So what I do now, if someone's flashing me and up my arse and they've got a small penis, fucking BMW, Audi, Mercedes, delete is appropriate. Please sponsor me, by the way, car dealerships. I need a new one. I just pull over and let them go.
Yeah.
If you want to be a dickhead in your fucking Audi R8, go for it. If you want to overtake every fucking tractor in Dorset, that's got nothing to do with me. I will pull over, open Pokemon Go, and spin a Pokestop. It doesn't bother me. So yeah, there we go.
That's fair. That's fair.
Any questions you want to ask me? Anything at all you want?
So, it's not so much a question. And this is not me trying to suck you off for 5 minutes, but let's go. Like, the podcast is really great. Like, I genuinely love it because podcasting in its most natural form, I think, should be a couple of mates having a natter down the pub. At least that's what I try and base my podcast of when we first started. Couldn't go out, lockdown, blah, blah. And it was like, let's just chat some shit, right? You are one of the only podcasts I listen to in the car where I'm actively chiming in on the conversation as it's happening, but nobody else can hear me. Like, you'll be, and it's just like having a guest like, who was the Twitch streamer you had on? Female, I can't remember her name. I'm really sorry. Like, literally, that was the one.
Which is great.
That was a really nice conversation, really genuine and really open. And I was like, and I was just chiming in, and I was like, Ben can't fucking hear me, like, at all, right? And the one that really made me laugh is when you and John sat down and were watching the Craig David Bow Selector.
He's a fiend.
I wasn't even watching it, like, on the screen. I was listening to just the audio, and I was fucking pissing myself at the sound of you guys pissing each other. It was so fucking funny.
We got some more of that coming soon.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally, like, how's the podcast life your end? Is everything all okay?
I am really happy. The only thing I will say, and obviously we have privately spoken about this, is I have decided in ABP land, 2 years in, I am just being myself.
Yeah.
100% of the time. I'm not turning the volume up on myself. It's exhausting faking positivity and bullshit. But sometimes I come off as quite negative. And I fully address that, and I fully understand that. So thank you for not being a fucking yes man to me. I genuinely appreciate it. It's one of the reasons I wanted to get you on. And I couldn't be happier with the state of the podcast at the moment. The YouTube channel is doing numbers. It's not quite doing as many subs as I think it should, but it's a slow burn, this game. YouTube's also a slow burn. So you've got these 2 buckets of water slowly filling up sequentially. I'm up to date on bookings. I could probably do with posting a bit more to Instagram. I could do with a couple more people on the lives with me. I like having a bit of a back and forth on the lives, because otherwise it feels like I'm just talking to OBS, which is a sad world, talking to this infinity mirror when you're not pressing record. But yeah, I'm really happy. The sponsors are really happy.
Good.
Which, it's not necessarily the be all and end all, but it's nice to have some affiliation, and it's just going really well. I'm really happy.
Good. I mean, that's the thing. I've just, like, and this is going to be a shameless plug, so I apologise, but I've started Patreon, and I've done it on the simple basis of I will eventually put extra content on there, but if people want to just pay to keep the lights on, and that's as simple as it is. If you want to help pay me my electric bill and my internet bill and my Zoom fucking meetings bill, everything else, then they can. But at the same time, it's always free because I love doing it. Because I do it because I'm in such a privileged position to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And it's moments like when you have Billy Sheehan on. It's moments like that where you're like, okay, this is all right. For every guest that didn't turn up, or every guest who was a bit awkward, or every time Zoom fucked you over, it's kind of like, I'm chatting to Billy Sheehan. This is not bad. This is actually all right,
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way I look at it. But
completely.
You're smashing it, man.
I'm trying my best. It is difficult. I've got a lot going on outside of this little Zoom recording, but
absolutely,
I'm trying to steer that ship. I loved speaking to Billy. One thing that I am going to try and do this year is I'm going to try and scale back the massive gets, because the episodes that I find hold true and actually perform very well are the ones that I don't seem to put a lot of effort into, and the people that I have on as guests retweet, repost, put up actual posts on their Instagrams. And that cross-promotion is worth so much more than me getting someone like Ricky Gervais on. Because he will just pretend that I don't exist after that record button stops.
I don't even think it's that. It's just they're so massive in terms of their world. And the thing is, when you're like, take Ricky Gervais, for example, to get to him, you've got to go through 5-6 different people. Like, unless you've got a direct line to that person, like we spoke about before, and don't get me wrong, PR companies are fucking brilliant. They're brilliant at what they do, and they serve a really great purpose. But sometimes it does make life a little bit difficult, because it's like, I've got a really good rapport with everyone I work with, but especially when you start talking to a new company, they're like, how many followers do you have? What's your reach? What's this? What's that? And suddenly you're half an hour conversation that you're going to have with someone, and I can guarantee in the moment that someone's recording it, they'll really enjoy that half an hour conversation, the person on the other end. But as soon as it stops, they're just like, on to the next one. But you have to go through lots of different hurdles. And you said about not being a yes man. Like, I think it's very difficult to sometimes, when the bigger the guest, the more yes man they have around them. And the more barriers to overcome. And I think I've realised in the 2 years of doing this podcast, or 2 and a bit years, whatever it is I really enjoy the chase. That's the best bit. Is sitting in a Weatherspoons and having Liam Cormier from Cancer Bats fucking like your Instagram DM and reply to you and like, oh shit, you are up for coming on this podcast, or literally having Ash from Holding Absence at the very end of the interview gone, by the way, I've put you and your girlfriend's name on the guest list for the Colchester show. He hasn't got to do that, but he's just a fucking nice dude who just wants to see other people have fun and do their shit, So it's fucking wicked.
I think when you have a bit of fame and things are going well, from my perspective, I've been sent a lot of stuff from previous sponsors, and people have messaged me on Instagram saying, we'd love for you to do an ad for Set Surf for 2 Lasses. I've got this bottle and I need to fucking promote it, because they honestly do the best rum I've ever tried, and I'm not saying that just for online purposes. It is really fucking good. And I tend to pay it forward. So if someone sends me a ton of soap or shower gel or beard oil or something like that, and it's like 4 things, I will give a lot of it out to my friends, because
absolutely,
they message me. Like, my friends are they're so supportive of this. Like, they constantly message me like, that was a really good episode, and I'm like, holy shit, it's only been up for 2 hours.
You know the one thing I will say to everyone who's listening or watching this, and the most important thing, if you have any kind of friend who's in any kind of creative, whether it be a business, a podcast, a YouTube, if you're a barber or if you're an artist or whatever, sharing someone's shit is free.
Yeah.
Like, and it's so easy. It's a press of a button. But the thing is, some people wait until you're blown up to be like, oh, I knew you'd make it. And it's like, all the people who got you there are the people who just clicked the share button, rated it 5 stars on Spotify or whatever, or just telling someone, oh, by the way, you like that one band. Oh, my friend's friend is like got him on a podcast.
Yeah,
that's, do you know what I mean? And it costs nothing. And to be honest, like I said that with I've done the Patreon thing at the start of these episodes every year now, and it's like, just tell a mate. That means more. Yeah. Like, paying me financially is one thing, but you telling 3 of your friends is a lot easier.
Yeah.
And and that just sets the ball rolling for everything else.
Yeah, and I want to support people as well. Like, I share your stuff on Instagram.
Absolutely,
I like
of course,
Facebook, sort of stuff. But one thing I've learned from having a tiny bit of musical success when I was playing bass in my bands, playing bands that have supported Iron Maiden, bands like Zico Chain. I'm trying to think of others off the top of my head. Being offered a buy-on to play for Decapitated when I was in Fisher Riddles.
Nice.
Which was like 6k, which we were like, what the fuck, how are we going to get that?
Yeah.
Start selling drugs and laundering money like all the other bands. No, not really. Is you appreciate it a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And it's very... What am I trying to say? So when you're climbing a mountain and you're being a twat and you're treading on people to get to the top of that mountain, at some point at the top of that mountain you will slip, and rather than people prodding you back up and trying to help you, they will drag you down. So be nice to everyone you come into contact with, because you never know who is going to come back into your circle and be like, no, that guy can't interview you, he's a dickhead.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the thing as well, like, the grind is real.
Yeah.
Like, anyone who's got a creative outlet or whatever will know the grind is very real, but it's also really important to just stop and not at the top of the mountain and go, look how far I've come. Even at like first base camp and gone, I've done really well this year. Like, Spotify Wrapped is fucking brilliant for podcasting and things like that. When it tells you your things, you're like, holy shit, like, I think it was something like we had like 40 people were in like the top podcast I listened to was the podcast. It's like, well, that's fucking mental.
Yeah.
Like, because again, the numbers on a screen don't really mean nothing, But again, because of YouTube stuff I've done before podcasting, I'd have people come up to me. I mean, that's how me and Rebecca met through my YouTube. It was like, people would come to me and go, oh, Matt, like, I love your YouTube. Like, can I have like a selfie? And I'm like, huh? Yeah. What? Like, what the fuck? I mean, nowadays it's less so because it's just a voice. I could be anyone, but it is pretty fucking crazy. But just support your friends is so fucking easy and so important. Because we're all trying to run this race.
Sound like a bit of a fanboy, but Joe Rogan does a really good job of that. If a comedian around him has a special out, he'll get them on the podcast, or he'll plug the fuck out of it, because his episodes are like 3.5 hours long. So he's like, Ari Shafir, go to arishafir.com, check out his special due, all that sort of stuff. But Kreischer, Tom Segura, all that sort of stuff.
And that's the thing as well. Like, so the podcast that I do is kind of like, a lot of it, the reason why the band are on is because they're on a press run, because they're doing, most of the time, I do get the occasional ones where it's like, hey, I just DM them on Instagram and they get back to me like, yeah, come on, and they've not really got nothing to promote, and it's like, okay, that's cool. But the majority of the time, like, so Adam from Polar, Woody from Polar, was a great example because we done the initial, like, what I call the hard sell about the album's out on Friday, blah, 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 blah. And then, like, he just opened up like a can of worms and just spilled it all out. And I had to do, like, and I'm like, although this is brilliant content, also, this guy's like, I don't know this guy doesn't know me, but we're just having a genuine, open, frank conversation about something. And that's really nice, Whereas some people, it's like, I think the more quote unquote, I'm trying to think of the words, not important, it's not the right word, more, oh my god, why is my brain gone fucking stupid? The more serious, that's what I'm looking. The more serious the band. If you're in like a technical death metal band, and I'm not saying that for every technical death metal band, but some of them can be a bit like serious and a bit mean faced. Whereas I have like a pop punk band on, and they're like, hey, and they're like full of energy, and I'm like, I relate so much easier to that than I do the other. But again, it's on me as being a host to be like, well, actually, I'm going to make this into a conversation. I'm going to make this into a podcast, I
think the way you can do that without it sounding too contrived is you have longer episodes. And I know that that's a bit of a blue sky thinking way of doing it, especially if someone's on a press run, because there's a high chance that artist will be on 8 Zoom calls.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got no, like I said to you before we started, like the other day, I said I'm a complete open book. Like, so I work with Nuclear Blast Records. So they done the Beyond the Black one was a Nuclear Blast record.
I saw that. Yeah.
The Cabal one was one of those. And again, they say to me before I get any kind of interviews, they say, Matt, you've got half an hour because they got X times, and I'm like, yep, that's fine, because I know exactly where I stand. And that way I can like tailor the conversation to make it what it needs to be. Whereas other times it's like the Polar episode with Holding Absence, it just kind of free flowed and it just didn't really stop. And I'm like, cool, I've taken like an hour of your time. I should probably shut up and let you get off now, or whatever,
It's nice to be able sometimes to kind of get into their head and, like, in a good way, obviously, and chip away at the standard questions that they get. And sometimes those quick-fire questions that I ask, they open up a whole new world of conversation. Yeah. And, if I get a band on to promote an album and they end up talking about cream eggs, that's fantastic. Because it breaks the mould of the template that they've been exposed to 7 other times in the same day. And they might remember it a bit more as well.
Absolutely. I got asked on another, I'm not sure it was the Chronicles of podcast or whether it was Ready to Mosh that I was on, where they said, what's someone who you'd love to interview? I think it was Ready to Mosh said it. And I immediately jumped to like, oh, okay, someone huge, like a Slipknot, like Corey Taylor, right?
Yeah.
But then I'm like, that guy has been, for better or worse, so media trained for 20 plus years. There is nothing that I can ask that man he has not been asked before. So it's kind of like, and if you're trying to take it from like a journalistic point of view or like just a general interviewer, you kind of want to find that new nugget of information or that new thing, So how does Corey Taylor feel about cream eggs? That's the real question, you know what I mean? So
I think something that I want to re-explore with Brendan from Wheatus is towards the end of my first interaction with him, I asked him what he does when he's not playing guitar and singing. And you saw his eyes light up. He was talking about bikes and riding bikes. And you can tell that he is well into that.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Might have to explore that a little bit more. But
absolutely.
Sometimes it's the questions that you don't expect that hit the most.
And you know what? I always say there's always room for a part 2.
Yeah.
Like, I would say, like, I totally admire people like Joe Rogan doing the 4-hour interviews.
Yeah.
But, like, I think I see a Joe Rogan episode, and it's unless I really, really like the guest, I'm probably not going to click on it because it's 4 hours long, for example.
Yeah.
But if it's like an hour and then, like, in 6 months' time they have them on again, it's like, cool. I can then, there's always room for part 2. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Just quickly as well, before I forget, I've actually got a band called Carbon Kid on in a couple of months, and they have agreed a new template for me, which I was a bit dubious about doing this, but I don't really know any other way, and I'm not sure what your thoughts are on it, Matt. I'm very happy to hear your thoughts because I do genuinely respect your opinion, as you probably figured out. And breathe. Fucking hell, that was a lot. Jesus Christ, I'm lightheaded. Fuck me. So yeah, they're called Carbon Kid. And they've agreed to come on the episode and promote their stuff pretty much for about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And they're going to pay me for the platform and for the privilege, and that money is going to go directly into the ABP merch that I'm in the process of designing. And then one hand washes the other, and I'm not using all of my personal wages because I got a kid to feed and I got a car to fill up with fuel. And it kind of allows everything to live and die within this sphere of like revenue, whatever the
absolutely. So I think for if they've approached you or you've approached them or whatever the transaction may be, they've approached you, then fair enough. If they want to come on and they want to pay you to come on, fair fucking play. So I won't mention the artist in question who I inquired about, and there was then told it'd be $200 to $300 to have them on for a 45-minute conversation. And I was like, look, I really respect you as an artist, and I get that making money is hard and everything else, but like with the most amount of love and respect, your episode, because you're such a big name in the scene, isn't going to hit the heights of a band who've got 2,000 followers on Instagram, because they're going to be so much more grateful for the exposure and then share it out, which will then get their fans to listen to it, therefore making the numbers better, as opposed to X band who's got like 100,000, 200,000 followers on Instagram, or whatever it may be. So, yeah, if it's, or going back into the podcast, even if it's not going back into the podcast, you want to put it in your back pocket, fair fucking play. Like, do you know what I mean? It's, I think if the guests, if I approach a guest, like I say, and they said to me, oh, it's $200-300 for you to have the privilege of having me on your show, it's like, okay, it's fine, I won't bother. And the truth is, like, about a year later, we swung back around and I'm now talking to their PR company, and it's like, I could just probably have you on as a guest the standard way, but we'll see, but yeah, I think it's a good idea. Any kind of way to make this both fun for yourself to do and produce, but also potentially like break even and possibly make a profit, then fair fucking play, I've
got a crazy story actually about that.
Go on.
Very early on, I was going for fucking crazy guests. I was going for Ali A. I was going for Joe Weller. I was going for anyone that I've got a subscription to on YouTube. And I kind of formulated a bit of a copy-paste situation, and I actually DM'd Savannah Fox.
Right, I don't know who that is.
She is a fucking massive glamour model and burlesque dancer from the US.
Right.
And she immediately got back to me, which freaked me out a bit, to be honest, that she read my message in the first place, because some people are like, no DMs.
Yeah, of course.
She was like, I'm happy to come on for half an hour, but it will cost you $600. And I was like, I don't know if you've noticed, but I've got like 130 followers.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you getting back to me, but there's literally no chance that's going to happen. And also, putting a 30-minute time limit on it isn't really how I roll. I tend to go off on one, as you've probably figured out in the 1 hour and 16 minutes. And I would probably want to hit her promotional things in that 30 minutes. And I just thought, that just sounds like work.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. And like I say, it is a case of I generally don't have on anyone who I don't have a massive interest in.
Yeah.
Like, that being said, I do work with PR companies. Sometimes they'll send me stuff, and I can get the better of myself. Look at Instagram. Oh, they've got 500,000 followers. Yeah. Probably should have them on, really. If I'm being offered them to come on, I probably should, do that. But that's the thing. The bands who I heard about, so there's a band called Oceans, right?
Yeah.
We had a really good chat and everything else. That is now my highest downloaded episode. Even higher than Rob Keller's TBD. And, that was fucking... And I'm like, this tiny band who, or figuratively tiny band. And I was like, holy shit. Like, that... So, having the biggest band or the biggest creator on in the world doesn't equal views or listeners, you know?
Yeah. I had a band on from Germany called Pathwalker, and they did the most audio numbers I've seen until recently, where my son has somehow overtaken them, which is absolutely mental. Like, who's he telling?
Yeah.
Like, how the fuck has that happened?
I love it. I love it.
He's made use of his megaphone he got for Christmas. So
nice.
Sponsor Absolute Bedlam. Yeah, there we go.
Absolutely.
There's one more question I was going to ask you, and I cannot remember what it was. So yeah,
that's fair. I will say this much: I'm genuinely gutted. So I'm going to bring it up because I'm gutted you haven't done it yet. Every other guest episode, you ask them what's the naughtiest thing they did at school,
right? Okay.
And I've got prime content for you, Ben, and you never went for it. So,
right. So what we'll do, right? Get off your chair, get out the room, come back in, and we'll start from the beginning.
Okay, fine.
Cool.
It's part of the podcast.
It's the first ever walkout, not the last.
Hiya.
Matt Bacon. Nevermind Polly podcast.
Hello.
How was school?
It
feels weird now.
It's fine. School was good. I was kind of weirdly thinking about it. The nerdy kid who had like a small circle of friends, predominantly females. I was a bit of a girly bitch in high school, to be honest, and middle school. I just loved the drama. Don't know why. But you know, I had a good group of friends. But yeah, it was okay. It was okay. I didn't do very well. I was too busy worrying about things that I probably should be worried about, looking outside and worried about like what fucking Pokemon cards I could get and whatever else, but not focused on my schoolwork.
So, Matt, what was the naughtiest thing that you did at school?
Ben, I'm so glad you asked this because I have the perfect answer. Like, we haven't planned this. It's amazing, right?
I'll take
so,
it off on the phone.
Take.
I've asked it. Yeah.
So, when I was in school, I was a goody two-shoes, right? Up until... So, I was bullied quite heavily in school, right? Because I look the way I look. I'm fat. That never changed in school. Whatever, right? But there was one particular kid who was just a fucking prick in high school, right? And for some reason, he was just being an absolute dick one day. And we were in form class, and he was chucking, like, inanimate objects at me, right? So we started off with like a bit of rubber and then a pen, and then like it progressively got bigger and bigger, these items he's throwing, right, while the teacher was out of the room, right? And I just, like, my friend Katie, God bless Katie, I love her so much, she's one of my best friends. She was sat there and she went, so obviously my last name's Bacon, I used to call Bakes back in school. She's like, Bakes, don't react. And she could see me just welling up with anger, right?
Yeah.
I went, just move chair. She went, what do you mean? I was like, just get over to the next chair. And she was like, why? I was like, because I'm going to need yours. She's like, you what? And within, like, this guy, like, lobbed a full 500ml bottle of Coke. It was fully sealed at the back of my head, right? And I just went, Lewis, you fucking dick, right? Stood up, picked up this chair, and just fucking launched it across the room in the general direction of this kid, right? And everyone's like, whoa, fight. We went to, like, have a fight, right? And, you know, just by chance, the teacher happened to walk in, right? And she was like, right, you two, pack it in. What's going on here, right? And he turned around and went, Miss, Matt threw a chair at me. And the entire, she was like, is this true, class? Like, threw it to everyone. And everyone went, no, I never saw no chair. Like, and the whole fucking class was like, I never saw him do it. And this little kid got marched out to the heads up for fighting, even though I threw a chair at him, provoked, but I threw a chair at him. So it was kind of like that little tiny little victory that kind of lives a little bit rent-free inside my head, even at age nearly 30. I'm like, that's still that little bit thing. I'm like, yeah, fuck that kid. But yeah, I did get excluded from school, which was, excluded for 2 weeks, which I don't think my mum ever did forgive me about because she was still angry about it. I brought it up the other day and she was still just like, yeah, I'm not happy about that.
Yeah.
So I used to hate language classes, right? So I took French in school. I can't speak a word of French. I could probably do bonjour and count to 10. That's about it.
Yeah.
But different times, folks, so don't cancel me. I had a friend who we would call affectionately called Squid Eye because she had a lazy eye, right?
Yeah.
And anyway, so we're separate ends of the classroom, and we're like throwing pens back at each other, right? Anyway, she decided to up the ante and stood behind the teacher who had her back to the class, right? And she sort of gave me the come on with her hands, like, come on, anything you fucking hard enough, throw it at me now, because she stood behind the teacher. Anyway, she was about 4'0", so I chucked it. She ducked. Teacher turned round, hit the teacher square in the fucking face, like right between the eyes, right? And this teacher went, "Oh, Matthew, get out!" And I went, "Sorry." She's like, "Get out," and I was like, "For what?" And she went, "You clearly threw a pen at me." I was like, "But Miss, Squid Eye," and she went, "You know you're not supposed to call Leah that. She's called Leah." And I was like, "Yeah, Squid Eye fucking started it, right?" And anyway, she's like, no, get out. And I went, "Oh, you know what? This is fucking bullshit." And I went on this whole tirade, right? I was about 14. I was like, "Fuck this school, fuck this shit. Rah, you're a fucking bitch." And I walked out the classroom, slammed the door, right? As this was all going on, my head of year was walking the other way down the corridor and went, "Matt Bacon, get back here immediately." And I just turned to him and went, "Oh, Wilson, do yourself a favour and go fuck yourself." And carried on. Just felt like the most ultimate badass at that moment, right? Carried on walking. Like, so, you know, like when you have an injustice and you feel so righteous, no matter if you're in the right or wrong, but you're so like, yeah, fuck the power, fuck the man, all the rest of that shit. I went to my lesson, the next lesson, like completely unfazed. And obviously, within 20 minutes of me being there, I'd been called out. And the headmaster sat me down and went, "So Matt, we've called your mother. She's going to come pick you up." And I was like, "Well, why have you done that?" And she's like, "We're expelling you for 2 weeks." I was like, "Sorry, for what?" And they're like, "Well, you threw a pen at the teacher. You made profanities in the classroom, disruptive behaviour." And I was like, "Sorry, have you seen my school record? I'm a goody two-shoes. What the actual fuck?" And my mum, God bless my mum, she's an angel and a saint, but she was so fucking angry. She walked in that fucking room, slammed door, went, "Get out here now." And I got in the car, and she was so fucking red, like beetroot red in the face. Got home, and she went, "Whatever you do, don't even look at your father." I was like, "Why?" He said, "He will fucking skin you. Don't even look at him. Just go straight upstairs. Don't even touch." Just like, "Oh, okay." I walked past. My parents didn't speak to me for like 2 days. They were so fucking angry with me. But in my defence, Leah shouldn't have done the come on, you know? That's all I'm saying. And that teacher was a bit of a dick, to be fair.
Who's Leah? Squid Eye.
Squid Eye, yeah. Leah also, aka Squid Eye.
There we go. I was listening. There we go. Fantastic. Awesome. Fantastic story. What does the future look like for Nevermind Polly?
Hopefully the same shit that we've been doing for the last 2 and a bit years. The bigger guests. Basically, I want to try and make the podcast as slick, as smooth as possible, having really great conversations with people, but also just trying to up the ante in every sense, make the YouTube better, make the audio better, have more opportunities, but that only comes with people investing in the product. And that's not even, like I say, from my money. It's just telling a friend, putting 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple, whatever. It takes 2 seconds, but it helps more than people really understand. Yeah. Because the algorithm then starts doing its job, and more people hear it, the better the thing gets, you know. But so last year we done 50, is it either 53 or 55? I can't remember episodes, something like that. So that's like one a week and a bit. So I've currently got a spreadsheet, or I've actually got an artwork graphic that's got 100 on it. So I'm trying to go for 100 guests, which is still less than 2 a week. Yeah. So I think it's doable, but quality over quantity always. That's what we're trying with the motto. So, but yeah.
Fantastic. More episodes of Rebecca planned?
Yeah, Rebecca, hopefully, is going to come on the podcast. Yeah, she's still listening to whatever she's doing. Hopefully, she's going to come on and do more stuff. Again, I try not to pressure into her too much because, like I say, it's my thing that she's kind of joined onto. But yeah, she is basically the secret second host, because every piece of artwork I go, does this look okay? Is this all right? Oh, by the way, I've got X band. Oh, by the way, this has fallen through. By the way, this hasn't happened. You know, and it's just nice to have someone to talk to about it, because obviously we talk about podcasting all the fucking time, but hopefully more stuff planned, and again, just trying to keep it as fun and as lively as possible, really.
Yeah. Awesome. So 2 things, and then I'm going to leave you to it, mate, because you've given me an hour and a half, and we were talking about time earlier.
Yeah.
Appreciate you as always, and I'll always,
absolutely, mate.
I'll always share my guest information with you as well. If you ever want an email address, just fucking hit me up, and I will help you out in any way. You know that shit.
Okay.
And I will meet you in the real world one day, and I'll buy you a fucking drink for a change, alright?
No, I was going to say, we because you're Bournemouth, aren't you? No, Weymouth.
Yeah, Weymouth.
So,
that's fine.
Somewhere around that area.
Something ends in muff.
Yeah, absolutely. We're definitely going to do it in the summer, 100%, because Rebecca and I need to go to a beach that isn't fucking Great Yarmouth and isn't horrible, so we'll definitely come down that way for sure.
So point 1, I love your episodes, like your Halloween episode where I sent you a voice note.
Yep,
I
absolutely.
think there's a real sense of community in those, and I want to try and do some of them as well, because I feel that this is starting to build a community, but it's not quite at the level that I want it to be. Considering the views are pretty decent at the moment, when I put stuff up on my stories and my "Do you prefer Baby Bell or cheese string?" sometimes peek behind the curtain, being completely real with everyone, I don't get any responses. And it takes 5 seconds for someone to say Baby Bell. But sometimes I get left on red. But we're over that now. I've got a therapist, but not really. Second thing is, I want you, Matt, and I'm speaking to you genuinely and honestly right now, I want you to take a bit of credit and have a little bit more confidence about you, because you are so self-deprecating. And I think that what you're providing is quality content, and I do genuinely mean that. I do make a conscious effort to listen to you, and I think you're doing a fucking good job, and you're editing your own stuff.
I mean, I'm rubbish at taking compliments, but I'll take it. Thank you. Editing, I don't do fucking any editing really. I do the intro, to the intro. And then I stick a bit of music before the guest comes in. That's pretty much the extent of my editing. When it comes to doing the video stuff, mainly it's just fucking admin.
Yeah.
It's admin of creating posters and artwork. Yeah. It's uploading to YouTube. Like I bought a gaming PC literally about 2 years ago, and it was about $1,000. So it's an expensive bit of kit, but fuck me, it takes a battering. Yeah. Like there is so much like guest stuff on it. Like, and the thing is, I don't want to delete it.
Yeah.
Because if like podcasting, which I don't think it will, ever kind of goes away, all of our stuff is kind of in the ether. Do you know what I mean? And I'm kind of like, well, at least I have a hard copy of this thing on my PC, but completely. I need to invest in a portable hard drive, I think, or something.
I'm going to get an external hard drive. I'll send you a link to the one that I'm getting. It's like a ruggedized sort of orange case. I watched Steve-O's Wild Ride on YouTube the other day, and he's got a shitload of them stacked up, and I was like, that's what I need. That's exactly what I need. There was an episode recently, I can't remember which one it was, and you asked a really good question, and the guest complimented you for the question, and you immediately just went, I nicked it off Diary of a CEO. And I thought... Because I did 100%, so that's the thing. We spoke about Robbie Knox and things from Jack Mo's Happy Hour. Yeah. Like, there is so many things that I've nicked from that. There's so many, like, literally, the Diary of a CEO, his literally first question is like, what do I need to understand about you to know your who you are now, or something to that effect? Says a lot better than I do. What is the context that I need to know about you that formed you? And I'm like, what a fucking pretentious but brilliant question. And they're like, I'm just here to talk about my album or whatever, So I just like straight up, I was like, fucking nicked it. I'm not claiming that as my own. Do you know what I mean? So, but fair enough.
I'm just afraid of not going there. I think that's something that you do really well. Like you don't have any fear about it. You just say it, and if it lands, it lands. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Where I feel like I can be a bit more like reserved about it. I'll say something and go, "Oh no, I can't say that." And it's like, why? Just fucking say it. Like it's only a conversation. It's not gonna hurt anyone. And it's definitely not gonna kill anyone.
If someone walks out of this podcast because of a question I've asked, that will do fucking wonders for me as a podcaster. So I do not shy away from the questions that I ask, and I really try to think of the questions I ask. The MC Lars episode is a very good example of that. I really thought about the questions that I was going to ask him, and I think he really appreciated it, because we didn't just go through the rig and roll of how's Blockchain Planet looking and how's the theme, and he's done all that. Like, he had to jump straight onto another Zoom call after we'd finished our one, but we've kept in touch ever since. He was on the catch-up episode with the 2-year anniversary. But yeah, enough about that. So, Matt, we're now at that point in the show, which is the last question that I ask. What is your go-to meal deal?
This is a question as old as time itself. No, it's not. I wish it was, though. So I would say it changes, but it fucking doesn't, because I go there and I'm looking for one thing and one thing only. It's a chicken Caesar wrap.
Nice.
Because they are just fucking quality. although sometimes you get too much chicken and not enough mayonnaise, or sometimes you just get pure mayonnaise and not enough chicken. I'm generally a chocolate fan as opposed to a crisp kind of guy. So generally we'll go for like something like a Mars bar / a Twix. Twix White, fucking bang. I love Twix White so much. They bang. And then drinks. I have got an unhealthy obsession with Coke, and not the stuff you stick up your nose either, like Coca-Cola products in general. So I've tried to be better. That's one of my New Year's resolutions, is to not drink as much fizzy drinks, because it's not good for you. So I try and go for something a little healthier, but generally I try and go for, like, if I do have to go for a fizzy, it's going to be a Coke Zero, but trying consciously to go for a water. But water is so fucking bland. It's the most bland thing in existence. But, yeah, we need it. So
My advice would be to buy a bottled water and get, like, a 4 times strength squash. And just put a tiny bit in it to take the edge off.
Yeah, that's fair.
That sounds like you're doing Coke, doesn't it?
It does. Or just get yourself a bottle of Prime Hydration from Wakey Wines or Asda or Aldi or fucking Spar, wherever the fuck you can buy it from.
Yeah.
Mental.
Edit the Prime in here. He's
not
not going to do that. I'm going to be like, all right, twat. Which is what he likes doing, don't you, John? Yeah, I know you're listening to this. Yeah, nice.
Shout out John. He's a fucking hero.
John. Legend. There we go. Right, well, I've just been to Toby Carvery. I'm feeling a bit regretful and I'm feeling a bit fat. So I'm going to leave you to it, Matt. I appreciate you. Yeah. Please go check out Nevermind Polly, guys. He had me on a couple of, probably about a year ago now.
Yeah,
and
about a year ago.
We've developed a bit of a friendship. And
hey, a bit. You're my podcast go-to. You're my podcast guru.
If you ever need anything, mate, just hit me up. You know what I'm like with my responses.
Absolutely.
Same back to you, mate. If you need sponsors, you need anything reposting, you're getting a bit sick of Rebecca one day and you need to offload her onto someone else, then I'm your guy, alright?
Should we do... So I'm going to say one thing finally. In 2023, should we bring back a podcast wife swap?
Yes.
So
yes.
How mental that show was.
My
so you get to live with a get to live with a very angry short northerner, and I'm not sure where Alex is from, but yeah.
Yeah, she will just read. You have to book a slot to speak to her. So yeah, if there's a Waterstones nearby, mate, you're fucked. So yeah, enjoy.
Love it.
Right,
love it.
It's been lovely speaking to you. Thanks for listening, watching, viewing, and subscribing, people. And please go check out my boy Matt, because he's fucking killing it. So yeah, speak to you soon. Keep
Adios,
it real.
Absolutely.
Keep it bedlam. Be emoji.
Be emoji. Love it. See you later.
Absolute bedlam.
Hello. Today I'm promoting a product called Set Surf 100% mineral sun cream, safe for sensitive skin and children. So I've got some products here. So we've got SPF 20 lip balm, mineral sunscreen, SPF 50 and water resistant sun cream, and my favourite, rash cream. So when I was out jogging quite a lot, this saved my bacon when I was running at stupid speeds, believe it or not, and going stupid lengths, and rash cream definitely helped me out. So yeah, reef safe, coral safe, www.setsurf.com, shop the range, use the code Bedlam20 for 20% off at checkout. Let them know that I've sent you, and yeah, enjoy.
Absolute bedlam.